بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا يا مدبر الأمور يا باعث من في القبور يا مجري البحور يا ملين الحديد لداود صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بنا ما أنت أهله في الدين والدنيا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear friend. There we are in second week of the RSR period. First of all, I would like to apologize from you for the last week lecture. I have received some big feedback from some people that the lecture was quite boring and put some people to sleep. I promise you, I will talk from now on faster, and I'll try to make it shorter. So for this reason, I will keep the last part, which is about the scientific facts. I'll keep it in separate from the recording, and I will just send it to you in the email, so you can watch it by in your own time. So this week we'll have only two parts: the Quranic verse and the story. The scientific fact, the fact will be just sent to you in the email, inshallah. So we continue with the Quranic verse that we started last session. If you remember, it was about our pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 172. So we talked about our pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this memory to this pledge, that when we come to this world, we keep loyal to Him, and by being good Muslims and steadfast in our religion. And if you remember, we talked about the two voices, the negative voice, which is the voice of shaitan that makes us forget Allah and become like shaitan, disobedient to Allah. Obviously, we want to ignore this voice, and the voice of Allah, the positive voice, which is the voice of Allah, that reminds us with Allah and help us to be strong and destroy shaitan. And that is basically the memory of the pledge that we need to look after and strengthen inside us, in our souls. So we also talked about when we feel them, when we feel these voices, when we come particularly to choose between two options, right or wrong. You hear this, you kind of have this feeling inside you. You don't know what to do, and choose between right and wrong. And we also talked about how people have it different inside them. Some people have this pledge very strong, and we also said some people have it weak, some people they don't have it at all. I put to you this picture of the battery, so kind of it helps us visualize the meaning of being strong, weak, or don't have it at all. So this is basically going to be the topic for our session this week, and we start to understand why people have it strong in them. So if you remember, I briefly talked why. I said because those people, they look after it. They look after their pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of their characteristics is that they respond to it immediately. They don't even second think about it. They don't give a space to the negative voice, to the voice of shaitan. All what they have inside them is that voice from Allah, or the voice of the Imam. So they once they hear it, they respond to it. They don't give space to the other voice. And Quran describes their soul at being at comfort, at peace, and the word that Quran uses for it is an-nafs al-mutma'inna. And that's why we find in Quran, in Surah Al-Fajr, read Surah Al-Fajr. It's a very beautiful surah, and it's not very long. It's only one page. If you look at it, you will find at the end, the last couple of verses, it says, Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya, فادخلي في عبادي إلى وادخلي جنتي, to the end of the surah. So the interpreters of Quran, they say that this verse is particularly talking about the soul of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because it was at peace, at comfort. So they don't have the negative voice inside them, only the positive, the nur, the voice of Allah inside them. So it's truly amazing. So this soul is particularly seen with our imams, with our prophets, and some of the companions, the very, very close companions of our imams. Obviously not like us, we won't expect ourselves to have a nafsul mutma'inna, at least I'm talking about myself, unless some of you guys are really good, and mashallah, you always listen to the good side and developed a very strong soul that mashallah killed the bad voice inside them. Inshallah, we can do that and move towards this type of soul. I'll give you an example of the people who have it strong in them. I think the picture is kind of indicative of who are the people. And subhanallah, if we look at our history, we won't find such people have their soul very strong and so responsive to the call of Allah, to the will of Allah, like Imam Hussein and his companions. MashaAllah, all of the companions of Imam Hussein, they are really a great examples to have strong souls. But we'll pick one of the characters that we have in Karbala, and we can talk about it a little bit. Imam al-Abbas alayhi salam. We all know about his loyalty, about his wafa, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and his wafa wasn't just about not leaving Imam Hussein and being by his side. his wafa went to the level that he's not willing to taste the water before it reached to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So it's so amazing. So amazing. So like I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us to learn from Imam Abbas alayhi salam and the other companions of Imam Hussein and walk on their footsteps. Yeah, so like as you can see, like even the people at the time of Imam Hussein, they had two options, two choices. They leave Imam Hussein, so the good voice, the bad voice was calling them to leave Imam Hussein and save their lives, and there was the good voice, the voice of Allah and the Imam, that to join Imam Hussein and die in his company. And mashallah, those people, the companions of Imam Hussein, they had this strong voice. They had this strong pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their feeling wasn't even like to choose between like joining him or not. Their feeling was just feeling so eager and like feeling like so keen to join Imam Hussein alayhi salam and die in his company, and feel the bitterness of this life if they stay alive without their Imam alayhi salam. So that was a really inspiring and beautiful story about the people who have the pledge very strong inside them. Now we go to, unfortunately, a disappointing story, if you like, which is about the people who have the pledge weak inside them. So those people who have it weak inside them is basically like ourselves. Now we say, how? You'll see by the end like what I mean. I will give some examples to explain why we have it weak inside us. And we basically have it weak inside us because we ignore it. We don't look, we ignore it, we don't look after it. We take we take the commands of Allah for granted. We don't take it seriously. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran, in Surah Al-A'la, verses 16 and 17, look at them in your spare time. You'll find Allah tells us why we have it weak inside us. The verse says, بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Indeed, you prefer to enjoy this temporary world, while the hereafter is the real life, better and more joyful than this life. So, unfortunately, as I mentioned, we don't take the commands of Allah very seriously. And I give you an examples to convince you that we have it weak inside us. For example, it's time to pray. We don't pray on time. We wait to finish our movie first, or we say, we are hungry, we want to finish our meal first. You tell them, come on, it's time to pray. They say, yeah, but I'm hungry, I want to finish. One of the things that I didn't mention about the people who have it strong in them, they don't have but. They know that this is what Allah wants, this is how the Imam wants it to be, that's it. There is no but, there is no second think about it. Whereas people like us who have it weak inside us, we keep saying, yeah, I know it's time to pray, but I'm hungry. Yeah, I know it's time to pray, but I'm sleepy. Yeah, I know, but we keep saying these buts, and that obviously keeps us away from Allah and far from our Imam. And this is one of the reasons that why Imam Sahib Zaman Ajallahu Farajah is not coming to us, because there is no much strong people amongst us. So this is one example. Praying is one example. Another example, that we should respect our parents. We don't care. We keep hurting them. We keep making them hear bad words from us. We should be careful with our hijab for the girls. we should be careful with our hijab. Some girls wear hijab, but their ears are showing, their necks are showing, and like they put makeup when they go out in public. You ask them, is that how Allah wants, like He wants you to wear the hijab? They say, oh no, but I wanna, look like my friends, or I wanna not follow, but like I want to be, fashionable and this and that. Well, unfortunately, that is the sad thing, that we are more concerned about how people perceive us, how people see us, more than how Allah sees us or how Allah wants us to be. We prefer the pleasure of people over the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if I want the will of Allah, if I want to follow what Allah wants from me, I won't care about what people think about me. You tell one girl, like, you have to wear longer clothes, she will tell you, like, but this is old-fashioned. Well, I don't care whether it's old-fashioned, it's new fashion. I follow what Allah and my Imam wants from me. I want to look after my pledge. I don't want to be amongst the weak people anymore, at least in this part. So the soul of those people is not in peace. It's not like the people who have it strong inside them. Unfortunately, the soul of those people is in battle. In battle between two. The blaming soul, which is the good soul that blame them if they do bad, if they do sins, and between the bad soul, which is commanding soul that command them to do sin and to do bad things. And it's called an-nafs al-ammara bis-su'. So they are not in peace. The people who have it strong in them, they are at peace because they killed the commanding soul. They killed the negative voice. They killed the voice of shaitan, and that's why they are free. They are flying. They are in peace and at comfort, like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Whereas the people who, like I said, like Imam Hussein alayhi salam, doesn't mean that Imam Hussein had a bad soul. Imam Hussein is the source of all the good souls, but I'm just giving an example that we can look at who has a soul at peace, at comfort. Not that he lost the bad soul and he became a good soul, because the Imam is always having the good soul. But we can say the companions of Imam Hussein, they were able to kill the negative voice inside them and fly and migrate towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam and become such strong souls, mashallah. So the people who have it weak inside them, like ourselves, we are always in battle between the nafs al-lawwamah and nafs al-ammara bis-su', between the good voice and the bad voice. And whenever the good voice win, we get closer to the strong people. We kind of move forwards to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Sahib al-Zaman, all our Imams. If the bad soul, the commanding soul, and nafs al-ammara bis-su' wins, unfortunately we step backward and we become closer to shaitan, and shaitan even becomes stronger and can control us. So this is how we can describe the soul of those people. And I give you an example of people who have it weak inside them. As I told you, obviously ourselves, and like every one of us is an example of someone having the pledge of Allah weak inside them. Maybe I'm talking about myself. Maybe you guys are very strong and you say, no, excuse me, I have it very strong in me. MashaAllah, if you're like that, then I invite you for such a beautiful soul. But we, regardless, we all should work on our souls to move towards the souls of our Imams. So that's an example of these days. An example from the past. Again, let's go back to Karbala and see what type of people who had it weak inside them. It's those people who left Imam Hussein and they remained and hide in their houses to protect their cheap and temporary lives so they don't die. It's just because they didn't used to respond immediately to the pledge of Allah, and that's why they end up in not being able to like we say in Arabic, and yunsar al-imam. They weren't able to follow the imam. They weren't able to join the imam. It's really scary. This is very relevant to ourselves. Like, there is really like a big warning here. Like, I seriously see it, a big warning, that if we continue ignoring the pledge of Allah inside us, and like, for example, I give an example to make it clearer. Like, for instance, we don't pray on time, we don't look after our, hijab for the girls, etc., etc., etc. Every one of us have their own examples in their own lives that can apply to them. If we always give the control to the negative voice, and we kill the good voice, we are basically ignoring our imam. We are ignoring Imam Sahib al-Zaman. And if the imam appears tomorrow, we are gonna end up in, la samahallah, one of those people who left him, like left Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and like, God forbid, we might have such a weak soul that we might even go against him. So it's really scary. That's why we need to be always careful, because that is the connection, that what makes the connection between us and our imam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is something very significant that we should take care about. We shouldn't be like more concerned about our, about like how people think about us, and forgetting what our imam wants from us. So that is the disappointing story of the weak people. Now we come to the people who don't have it at all inside them. And they don't have it is basically because they lost it. They lost it, they didn't look after it, they basically killed it. You know how we said people have two voices, the good voice and the bad voice? They killed the good voice. They killed the good soul, that blaming soul that keep telling them, remember Allah, don't do bad things. They unfortunately killed it, and unfortunately all what they have inside them is evil. All what they have inside them is the commanding soul that command them to do sins. So their soul is occupied with evil and burning, full of darkness. And as you can see, this just doesn't happen in one step. It happens in steps, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran warns us from the steps of shaitan. In Surah Yasin, the verse says, لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. Don't follow the steps of shaitan. It's dangerous. And follow me, follow my words. It is the correct path. So it's so amazing and really relevant to this one here. And an example of those people who have it very weak, like they don't even have it at all, not just weak, are the examples of Yazid and Shimr and their likes, the people who killed the good soul inside them by their bad deeds, by their desires, and by their lying and backbiting and committing all sort of crimes. You tell them don't harm people, they laugh at you. So Shimr and his army, and Yazid and his army, the Imam Hussein alayhi salam was telling them, how come you kill the son of the Prophet, the son of Zahra, the son of Ali? They laugh at him. They don't understand, because that good soul that can see the Imam, that can hear the Imam, they killed it. That's why they are deaf, they are blind, they don't see. They are just basically beasts and evils in body of humans. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and keeps us away from those people, from such people, because like it's seriously, like, this is a scary story. Like, we hope that we don't go down that side. Inshallah, we look after our pledge and we keep connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So the activity of the verse of this week, Sister Noor has suggested for us to think about our daily actions and see how much of them are taking us closer to Allah and making Allah and our Imam happy with us, and how much making the opposite, making Allah and the Imam upset with us. So, like, we should think, like, do we adhere to the commands of Allah? Do we acknowledge Him before anybody else? Like, are we aware that He's our creator? Do we obey Him? Do we follow Sharia? When we come to commit a sin, do we know towards whom we are committing such a sin? So if the answer to these questions is no, then we haven't fulfilled our pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to check ourselves and our daily habits, our sayings. We make sure they don't contain lies. We look after our prayers, our behaviors with our parents, siblings, relatives in general. We make sure, like, we don't say bad words to people. We make sure we keep away from backbiting. So this is the activity of the verse. Inshallah, with this we can practice this verse, that like we can practice our yes to Allah. Am I not your Lord? Inshallah, yes, we practice that, and the result of this is basically to help us, inshallah, be of the companions of Imam Sahib al-Zaman, instead of being one of those who left Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or God forbid became of his enemies. Inshallah, we are none of those people, and we are closer, much closer to our Imam. So now we have reached the second part of our session, inshallah, which is the story. The virtue of the week, we chose generosity. Our friend Malak has prepared for us another beautiful story about generosity from Imam Ali alayhi salam, the source and the reservoir of all the goodness and all the nur and good character. So the story centers about a garment that the Prophet gave to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and the Prophet said Imam Ali was wearing his old garment. So he asked him, what happened to your old garment, O Ali? And Imam Ali answered the Prophet. He said, "O Prophet of Allah, I saw one of the companions complaining about his needs for good clothing and like complaining about the cold weather. So I gave mine away, knowing that Allah will give me a better one. So amazing that how like the person thinks that, you know, it's fine, I can give what I have away, and I'm sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will substitute me with something better. Before I go to what we can learn from the story, I generally mention the meaning of generosity. So generosity, when it's mentioned, like, we always associate it with money, but it's not all about money. It can be a smile, it can be food, it can be clothing, like in the story of Imam Ali, and it can be time, you know, we sometimes like so stingy with our time with our siblings and our parents, so we can be more generous by spending more time with them. And so as you can see, it can be anything. So that's just about the meaning of generosity. The lesson that we can learn from this story, that we should be generous regardless of our situation. If we are sad, we should still share, smile. And the other thing that we can learn from the story, that the Imam is always willing to help, even if he himself will own nothing. This is like a very common characteristics about all the Imams and the Prophets. They always selfless. They always prefer others over themselves. So even if the Imam will not have a coat, will not have a garment, he would still like give to other people. And the other thing that we can learn from the story is that when we give, we should give something good, or like, in other words, we should give it the best thing we have. So if Imam Ali alayhi salam had 2 coats, he could have given the old one, but he chose to give the new one, and he said, Allah will give me a better one. So that is Imam Ali alayhi salam. He is full of good characters and he's full of nur. So hopefully this story help us to learn something about our Imam and get closer to him. So another narration regarding generosity that Malak has shared with us is that the Prophet says that the generous person is close to Allah, to people, and paradise. Close to Allah because Allah likes generous people, and one of His names is generous. So by you becoming generous, you become closer to Allah. The name Al-Jawad, Al-Karim, means generous. And become closer to people because when you help people, they like you, and that's why you get closer to them, and closer to paradise because the people of paradise are all Jawad, are all Kareem, are all generous. So you get closer to paradise. So that is the story of this week. Inshallah you find it interesting. So as we said last time, we love our Imams, we want to get closer to them. So by these stories we should learn how to become like them, inshallah, and move towards them. As I mentioned earlier, we are not going to mention the scientific facts in the recording. I'm just going to hint to it here that please don't forget watching them because they are going to be your assignment for this week. So remember to watch them. It's so beautiful, and one of the links are talking about a miracle of one of the stars. So it's a Quranic miracle. So don't forget watching them. So we reached the summary of the second week. So we talked about why people have the pledge of Allah difference inside them, strong, weak, or don't have it. We also heard a story about Imam Ali, and we learned that generosity can be anything. And don't forget watching the YouTube links that I sent you to your email, and inshallah they're going to be your assignment. So this is the end of our session for week 2. Inshallah you enjoyed it, and I hope I talked fast. I didn't make you sleepy like last time. We'll look forward to talk to you next week inshallah. Fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear friends.
امیر المؤمنین یا شاه مردان، یا شاه مردان، یا شاه مردان، دل ناشاد ما را شاد و گردان. مولا علی جان، مولا علی جان. شبی در محفلی ذکر علی بود، شنیدم عارفی فرزانه فرمود. اگر دوزخ به زیر پوست داری، نسوزی گر علی را دوست داری. وگر مهر علی در سینه ات نیست، بسوزی گر هزاران پوست داری، بسوزی گر هزاران پوست داری. مولا علی جان، مولا علی جان. امیر